It's okay. It's okay.
Shall we start in 2-3 minutes? I can see devotees have not come.
Start the summary. Let's not manage to come on time. Okay, start now. I'll do the summary for a few minutes. Sure. We'll start the
Hare Krishna everyone, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Mataji, Hare Krishna. So today we are going to continue with our second day of the series, the conversation with Soul and Super Soul. So His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu has very nicely explained in a different perspective the verses of Bhagavatam 4.10, 5.12, 5.12, 13 and 14. Right, so today Prabhuji is going to continue day 2. And thank you everyone for coming on time, and let's all welcome Prabhuji again with nicely Hari Bol 3 times. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So let's Prabhuji.
Om Jnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming today for this second day of the series. So before we go ahead, let's look at some of the verses once again. Or let's look at some of the themes that we discussed yesterday. Can anyone recollect any of the themes from yesterday? Any point? ACT. So that is the overall overview session. We are going to discuss first is appreciate how the Lord is present and how Lord is acting in our world. And C was connect. That's what we are going to discuss today. And then T was target. We want to target the Lord in the sense of making Him the ultimate goal of our life. Thank you. Anything else? Sorry? Fan. Okay, so when we want to appreciate, when we look at God or whatever ultimate reality, there are three options for us. And that ultimate reality is, what is it? Favorable to us, against us, or neutral to us. or is non-existent. Now, if that higher reality is against us, then we are doomed. Whatever we do, our power is so tiny against that higher reality. So there's practically no point for living only. Now, if that is neutral, then we have to explore, is it really neutral or is it favorable? So then we discussed about, what is the next point? Major point of the class yesterday? One diagram?
Different philosophies.
Yes. Based on 4.10, we discussed the various philosophies. So, what is this? What is the x-axis? Real. What is real? Yes, the material world, the world we live in is real. And then the other world or the spiritual world is real. So based on what is in the first quadrant? What is the philosophy called? Yes, materialism. That is the prominent philosophy in this world, that this world is real and whatever exists beyond is false. So this is the worldview of desire or raga. So now the problem with this worldview is that there is a death ultimately. That death takes us away. Death takes whatever we are attached to away from us. Then when this happens, we discussed how in our life journey we all have something that we consider to be artha. And when this artha is taken away from us, then we have either option, we go down toward what? Anartha. That means now the anartha is basically raga is the worldview where the world, things in this world we consider to be artha. So when we go toward anartha, that can be to the other two worldviews. And above what is what? Paramartha. So when something in this world is taken away from us, either we can just become frustrated and think everything is valueless, or we can look towards that which is of supreme value, that which will last. So when we go toward anartha, that may happen in these two worldviews. So the second quadrant is what? Nihilism or voidism. Nirvishesha shunyavadi. So neither this world is real nor the other world is real. This is the worldview of despair. Vitaraga, this is what? Krodha, yes. Anger. Life has no point to live at all. No, nothing is of any value. What is the point of living? So this is the worldview of despair. And then we have the other world is real, this world is false. This is the worldview of monism or nirvishesha. So nirvishesha means nothing special, everything is one. So this is the worldview of bhaya, or we can call it dread. That everything in this world is just a trap. Whatever looks attractive is a deception to trap us in this world. So these two are the anartha, where we go towards bhaya or krodha. And then the fourth quadrant, what is it? Yes, it is the worldview of bhakti. It is the worldview of bhuta mad bhava magataha. Bhava is it is devotion. So we want to go towards this worldview. Now significantly in this worldview, even the world we live in is considered real. So it's not unreal, but it is temporary. And then we discussed, any other points anyone remembers? Sorry? Just say 1% loudly.
Gift of life.
Yes, okay, that's you remember, all of you remember that side. So when we talk about gratitude, we often think of the gifts, what? In life. You know, I got this health, I got this job, I got this talent, so many things. But the gift of life is much more fundamental. And that itself is not, although we consider it to be commonplace, but there are so many factors involved. So we discussed on the 15th chapter, the 3 levels we can appreciate it. What are 3 levels? At the level of the universe, at the cosmological level, then at the level of the earth, and then at the level of our own body. So the physiological level. So at the level of, if the sun were not existing, we would not exist. If the earth were not floating, the earth were not producing vegetation for us to eat, we wouldn't exist. If our body did not have the capacity to digest food, we would not exist. So there are many things which make our very existence possible. And that's why the gift of life is to be appreciated. And then there was one more image which I said we'll come back to in each of the sessions. That is the image of spiritual advancement. So in spiritual growth, what happens? Initially, the world is big for us and God is small for us. But as we grow, what happens? The world becomes smaller and Krishna becomes bigger for us. So now I think we covered most of the things. Thank you. So let's move on. So the pastime we are discussing here is, we are discussing which pastime? Does anyone remember? Puranjan pastime, yes. I went into so much philosophy that a pastime might have been forgotten. But the point was, it was a starting point for us to get into the discussion. So Puranjan, sorry. So I discussed about how Puranjan in his next life, he becomes Vidarbhi. And then she is a devoted wife to her husband Malayadhwaja. And Malayadhwaja is a spiritualist who departs, who rules competently and then renounces the world. And then he departs in Samadhi. And while she is lamenting, at that time, the Lord comes to her. The Lord comes in what form? In the form of a Brahmana. And he starts speaking to her saying that, you know, we have known each other for a long time. So, does anyone have a mic separately? We have a second mic? Yeah, you can just. So we can read some of the translations over here. So you can take the mic, whoever would like to read. Maybe one verse, one Prabhu can read, one Mati can read. So, yesterday, so let's read this particular verse. So we discussed, who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? This is the verse we discussed. Let's look at the second verse now. Who would like to read? Yeah.
The Brahman continued, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, you gave up my company and accepted a position as enjoyer of this material world.
Yes, so basically, api smarasi chatmanam. Don't you remember it? Smarasi. Avigyata sakham sakhe. So throughout this narrative, this particular character will be referred to as Avigyat Sakha. Avigyat Sakha is the unknown friend. So in our life we have some friends whom we know. But sometimes you may see in some movies or some novels, somebody gives an inheritance to a person. And they don't even know who gave that inheritance. Like you have some unknown benefactor. So if we have some unknown benefactor, it would be such a big blessing for us. Like sometimes we are trying to serve a temple and somebody is a donor. One thing is to not want their name to be known to public. But even they don't want even the temple to know who gave the donation. Like somebody is completely unknown. So this is avigyata sakha. So he says, hitva mam padvam anvichan. You turned away from me and you tried to enjoy this world. Bhauma bhoga ratogataha. Bhauma bhog. That is earthly pleasure, material pleasures. So basically, the world becomes big for us because we desire to enjoy the world. We'll talk about that later, but let's go ahead with the verses. Yes.
My dear friend, both you and I are exactly like two smells. We live together in the same heart, which is just like the Mansa lake. Although we have been living together for many thousands of years, we are still far away from our original home.
Yes. So the Lord is speaking over here. Hamsa aham chitvam. That I and you, both of us are hamsas. Sakhayu manasa. So in the manas, right? Like this, we are like friends staying in this particular lake. Abhutam antara bahuka. We have traveled for a long time. Abhutam, for a long time. Sahasra parivatsaran. for hundreds of years. It's been a long journey. And normally if it's a long journey, you may think, have I come close to my destination? But unfortunately in this journey, we are going round and round. It's a samsara chakra. If you go down the cycle, then we don't circle, we don't go closer. Just keep going up and down. So you're saying that we have been all on a very long journey. And yes, who would like to read? Yes.
My friend, you are now my very same friend. Since you left me, you have become more and more materialistic. And now seeing me, you have been traveling in different form throughout this material world, which was created by some woman.
So now, he says, Sattvam vihaya mam bandho. We are the same friends. We are still together. Our relationship has not ended from my side. Sattvam vihaya mam bandho. Gato gramya matirmahi. Gramya mati means materialistic intelligence, materialistic consciousness. So with that consciousness, we are traveling. Vicharan padam adrakshi. So vicharan, wandering around. And kayachin nirmitam striya. So here, it is in the particular story, if you know Puranjan's story, is that Puranjan is wandering around as a king, and then he comes to a palace and there is a beautiful queen over there, and he marries her and he becomes the king. So similarly, here the Striya refers to Maya Devi. Maya Devi has created this world and you are trying to enjoy in this world. So the Lord is giving a broad outline of the nature of our present existence and our journey. And then the Lord will go towards describing this material world and the material body in very vivid, at the same time very functional terms. Who would like to read? Yes, please.
In that city, the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, and 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is Lord of the house.
Yes. So now, if I have to explain this, I'll have to tell the whole class will have to be devoted to that. So I won't go into that right now. You can read the purport in the past tense. So this is basically describing that there is a lot. The key point over here is there is a lot already in this world. See, when we come into the body, we often, in our mother's womb, the body is formed. But even the mother doesn't know how the body is being formed. So there is already a prototype based on which our body gets formed. So in this world, there is a lot going on and we are simply like visitors entering into this world, and specifically into the body in this world. The body is like a microcosm of the world at large. Now the idea is, there's some description further of these. Who would like to read? Yes.
My dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment, and the protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients: fire, water, and earth. The 6 families are the aggregate total of the mind and 5 senses.
Yes. So here, generally, if you go into a city, if it's a more traditional natural city, the beautiful things there to see the parks and the gardens. The sense objects are the parks over here. And then in the previous narrative it is described that whenever our health goes down, it is the prana that is affected. Ayurveda talks about the very important role of prana. So prana is considered to be defender. The soul never dies, but even normally also when we look at the pulse of a person, we look at the breath of a person, the breathing stops, then we understand that life has ended. So prana is considered to be the defender. Then of course there are 9 gates, which are the body is frequently called as the city of 9 gates. Navadware Pure Dehi. And then there are the 3 apartments. Although there are many building blocks, Bhumi, Rapo, Nalo, Vayu, but here the focus is on the more of the gross elements: earth, water, and fire. Now these are often associated with Kapha, Vata, and Pitta in some thought systems. And then see, inside a city there are some people who are active. So inside our body, ultimately the soul is there, but primarily it is the mind and the senses that are active. Krishna says, Manaha shashthani indriyani prakritisthani karshati. So most of us don't even know that our soul exists. What happens for us is, it is the mind and the senses that are acting. So they are considered the families residing inside. Then, let's go ahead.
The five stores are the five working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined force of the five elements, which are eternal. Behind all these activities is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge.
Yes. So, while all this is happening in the city of the body, there is the actual person that is meant to be the soul. But it's like right now, say, I am seeing you, I am knowing you, but I, the knower, am unknown to me. So it's almost like the knower is unknown. Each one of us is the unknown knower of things. So the soul is hidden at the core of our being. And the core, although the soul, although it says Chit Ananda, it is Chit in the sense that it has the capacity for consciousness. It has consciousness. It has the capacity for cognition, for knowing. But right now, the knowledge is covered. Avrutam jnanametena. So we have very little awareness of who we are or what we are meant to do. Then, go ahead. Who would like to read?
My dear friend, when you enter such a body along with the woman of material desires, you become overly absorbed in sense enjoyment. Because of this, you have forgotten your spiritual life. Due to your material conceptions, you are placed in various miserable conditions.
Yes. So now here, the specific predicament while we are in a particular body is described. So tasmim stvam Ramaya sprushto. Ramaya is that Rama refers to the goddess of fortune or a female. So this female represents the enjoying spirit that ultimately comes from Maya Devi. Because of that, we get caught in the body. It's like a child who is watching, say, a movie. Now, say the movie is a horror show or it's a horror movie. A child is perfectly safe at home. The mother is nearby, the father is in the next room. When the child's consciousness is caught in the TV, then the child will feel scared. The child may be alarmed, child may scream, start trembling. Why? Because the consciousness is caught over there. So at one level, the whole arrangement, first of all the TV set, and then what is broadcast on the TV set. All that is not created by the child. All that is created by someone else. So, but it's the child that is watching it. So Purusha Prakritistohi. So basically, within the system of illusion, there is a generic or a universal illusion and there is a specific illusion. The generic illusion is, the overall illusion is that there is a TV set from which you can watch many things. The specific illusion is the specific TV show that the person is watching. So different people can watch different TV shows. So like that, when the soul becomes attached to the body, that's like the person getting glued to the TV set. So the whole arrangement is made by material energy. But within that, based on our specific desires, we will decide what it is that we want to watch. And accordingly, that kind of illusion comes in. So, when you talk about the moha or illusion, so there is a general moha. The general moha is what? Basically, that which is temporary, we think to be long lasting, we almost think it to be eternal. That which is tiny, we start thinking it to be huge. The pleasure in sense enjoyment, there's some pleasure, but we think it to be huge. We think that to be the goal of our life. Now the specific illusion, it depends on our desires. So for some people, if you consider how people get distracted, some people may get distracted by cricket, some people get by politics, some people stock market, some people may get into romantic movies, some people may get into action movies. So like that, there are different kinds of illusions in the world. So like that, different people get caught by different things. So that's how, while in this world, what happens is, Dasham Papiyasim Prabho. We are placed in now Papiyasim, Prabhupada translates that, It is sinful activities, but essentially we may not think about it as sinful. The result is it seen in terms of the suffering that we get in this world. So now, let's recite. Okay, I'll tell the translation. We'll read the translation, then we'll go back to the verse. Yes, go ahead. Who would like to read?
Actually, you are not the daughter of Vidarbha, nor is this man, Malayakvaja, your well-wishing husband, nor were you the actual husband of Puranjani. You were simply captivated in this body of 9 gates.
Yes. So, Natvam Vidarbha Suhita. It's telling that whatever identity we have right now, it's interesting. It's talking, our identity also changes in life. See, most of our identities are relational. When we are married to someone, then the husband of so and so or wife of so and so. When we have children, then our identity becomes the parent of so and so, mother of so and so, daughter of so and son of so and so. Now, when we are a student, you say, I am studying so and so degree. When we get into a job, I am working in this company. So our identities keep changing. So in this verse itself, 2 identities from this life are talked about, that the daughter of so and so and the wife of so and so. And then one identity is talked from the previous life also. In the previous life, as Puranjan, the princess was Puranjani, whose kingdom he had gone. You are not the Namna Patistvam Puranjanya. So it's talking that all these identities that we have, these are all coming from the body and the situations that we have in the body. But they are temporary. They're not necessarily false, they are temporary identities. And the mistake is not accepting the identity. The mistake is more than accepting it to be our essential identity or our main identity. It is a temporary identity that we have. Yes. Who will reading? Yes, please.
Sometimes you think yourself as a man, sometimes a chaste woman, and sometimes a neutral and
Eunuch.
This is all because of the body, which is created by the illusory energy. This illusory energy is my potency, and actually both of us, you and I, are pure spiritual identity. Now, just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual position.
Yes. So actually when Prabhupada explains, he is actually bringing out his compassion. Now just try to understand this. I am trying to explain our factual position. So, Hamsau Pashyavayor Gatim. Pashya is see. Pashya Avayor. Avayor is our Gatim. This is our situation. This is where we are at right now. So in one sense, yesterday I mentioned philosophy is help to make sense of things that don't make sense. Remember that? So we need to be able to see things how they are actually. So at this particular point, when that anartha, when that artha, what she had considered artha is taken away from her, the Lord is coming to point her towards the Paramartha. So for all of us, while this is an incident that is described in allegorical form long in a story, but the Lord is there in our hearts and the Lord wants to talk with us. Generally, we often talk about these 2 words, prayer and meditation. So in one sense, they are related, at the same time they are also different. Now, prayer is when we talk to God. Meditation is when we listen to God. So in one sense, our mantra chanting is both a prayer and a meditation. On one side, we are uttering the mantra, so we are speaking. So that's, we are trying to talk with God. We are trying to offer our prayers. Prabhupada say that the mantra is chanted in the mood of Krishna, please engage me in your service. So it's prayer. But at the same time, it is not that the Lord is deliberately silent, making His presence and His will hidden to us intentionally. He wants to talk to us. But because we have turned away from Him many times, now His voice is no longer audible to us. It's become, there are so many other voices inside our head that the voice of the Lord is no longer heard. The Bhagavad Gita is not just a historical discussion. Yes, it is. Discussion with Krishna and Arjuna. But Prabhupada explains that our body is also like a chariot, and the super soul is present in the chariot of this body. And just as Krishna spoke to Arjuna the Gita, similarly the Lord wants to speak to us. And in fact, when we study Shastra regularly, so basically, just as Krishna spoke to Arjuna in the chariot, so similarly in our body, the super soul wants to speak with us, the soul. So this is not just a historical dialogue. It's what is meant, whatever we hear in history, it's meant to inspire that talk within our hearts. That Krishna, as we practice bhakti more and more, Krishna becomes a living, loving reality for us. When we say God becomes bigger, God talks with us. Just understand the factual situation. Just understand that we have so many things which you consider, this is important, that is important. And then what is really important in the process, we may neglect that. So, by studying Shastra, what is meant to happen? So here, slowly this Brahmana is guiding, advising and earning the trust of this widow. And as he is doing that, then it is described that she will become enlightened. So as yesterday I talked about spiritual growth in one way of God becoming bigger. Now spiritual growth can also be understood in two different ways. See, there is faith and then there is surrender. Now faith essentially means we understand God is on my side. Yesterday I talked about faith is God, the FAN acronym. So through faith we start perceiving that God is on my side. And surrender means I will be on God's side. That God is on my side and I will be on God's side. I choose to be on God's side. So this is the essence of this dynamic relationship. I will be means I choose to be. So it is a choice that I will make. So when Arjuna is facing the battlefield, it's a terrible situation for him. He has to fight against Bhishma and Drona. And this is his grandfather and his teacher. Now these are the people for whose pleasure he learned archery. Generally, see, we all, even no matter how old we grow, there is a child inside us. And that child wants the approval, the appreciation of our elders. Whoever might consider it could be our parents, our guides. So, when we achieve something, it's just the world praising us, world glorifying us, wonderful. But there are some people whom we respect and love very much. And their appreciation counts a lot for us. So, for Arjuna, he had learned his archery so that he could please Drona, he could please Bhishma. And now he had to fight against them. It was a nightmarish situation to be in. And yet, by hearing the Bhagavad Gita, he understood that Krishna has a plan. That this is not just some misfortune that this war is happening. Through this all that is happening, Krishna has a plan. And Krishna wants my good, Krishna wants everyone's good. So, generally when we study Shastra, it is not just to hear some nice stories. It's good to hear those stories. But through those stories, the Shraddha that we are meant to get is that Krishna is on my side. That Krishna is for me. Krishna wants my best. Surudam sarva bhutana. And then, as that faith becomes stronger, then that will inspire us to surrender. So, while these are a stepwise process, they are also cyclic. Faith inspires surrender, and as we start coming on the side of the Lord, we start seeing how things start falling in place. And then that increases our faith. So both of these grow forwards. So here what this is, what where we is being told is that that Avigyan Sakha is here with you now. So the Lord is with us and the Lord is for us. So with this background, we'll look at the remaining verses in our tomorrow session. But let's move forward now. So we talked about appreciate, and now how do we connect with the Lord? What does it mean? So yesterday I talked about the gifts of life and gifts in life. See, generally, how does a child appreciate the love of the parents? Now, every child, you could say, has certain needs and has certain desires. So, now the child may need food, but the child may not value the food very much. The child may value some toys, or child may value some chocolate or some sweet rice. They may not have some nutritious food. So what happens is that the child will see the love of the parents in terms of the fulfillment of the desires, not in terms of the fulfillment of the needs. So, but what happens is, as the child starts growing, then the child starts appreciating, and even if this desire or that desire is not fulfilled, that what happens is my needs are being fulfilled. So we could call it desires or wants. So basically, in one sense, the process of growth in normal life is that initially we consider desires more important than needs. But as we grow older, we start valuing the needs more than the desires. That doesn't mean we give up our desires. We understand desires are important, but when our needs are taken care of, we appreciate that more and more. So just as this is the journey of normal growth, similarly, in the journey of spiritual growth, what happens is, for us, there are material gifts and there are spiritual gifts. So initially, we value the material gifts far more than any spiritual gifts. If our health is good, we get a good job, we have a nice salary, we have a good salary, all those things we value more. And Krishna doesn't reject or condemn that. Krishna in the 7th chapter, he says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam janaha sukruti no Arjuna. He says, all of these are sukruti because they are coming to me. Now, as we grow spiritually, what will happen is, we'll start appreciating spiritual things more than material things. So this is a journey of spiritual growth. So now, when we get material things in our life, we need to be able to see the hand of God over there. So, and gradually to connect with Krishna, like how does a child connect with the parent? The child connects with the parents because the parents take care of the child. Parents love the child, and the love is seen in various ways. So for us, in how do we see the hand of Krishna in our lives? So I'll talk about 3 steps over here by which how we can move forward. The first is appreciate. Appreciate means that this is more or less what I talked about yesterday, but it is that the many things that we have in our life, often we don't see God's blessings in our life because our mind, in everyone's life, there will be what we have and what we don't have. No matter how much we get, these 2 things are always going to be there. Even if we get a big house, from a house we get a mansion, there will always be someone who has a bigger mansion than what we have, isn't it? There will always be what we have and what we don't have. Now, if many times people think that I'll become happy when what I don't have moves into the category of what I have. And there's some truth to that. There are some things which we need in our life, we get them, it will bring some happiness. But the problem is, if our mind is locked into looking at what we don't have, then we will never be happy. So that's why happiness, that's why our satisfaction which is there, it is not just an emotion. Satisfaction is a decision. I'm feeling satisfied. That's true. We sometimes do feel satisfied. It is an emotion, but it is much more a decision. That decision comes by appreciating what we have. So suppose after this program there is prasad. I don't suppose prasad is there. But suppose there is some peculiar system over here that everybody will have a sweet. But everybody will have a different sweet. So say you have barfi, you have peda, I have laddu, you have a gulab jamun, you have a malpova, you have a sandesh. Everybody has a different sweet. Now, I might be having a delicious sweet, but if I am looking at what you have and what she has and what he has, then I might be having sandesh and it will taste like sand to me. Isn't it? Because I'm not looking at what I have. So the first thing is to appreciate that if we are to ever see God's hand in our life, yesterday also I talked about appreciate, but I was talking more about the gift of life itself. So in our life also we have many gifts. Apart from the gift of life, there are gifts in life also we have. So to some extent we start appreciating the gifts. Consciously look at the gifts that we have. And modern psychologists also talk about writing something like a gratitude journal to remind ourselves what are the good things in my life. Now, once we start appreciating this can itself help us see that there are so many things that are there in my life and they are not just there because I worked hard for it. There are so many other factors that have to fall in place for them to come about. And still after this also, one of the problems that comes up is we may appreciate what we have, but there are times when we feel that we don't get what we deserve. We may work very hard. We are in school, we work very hard and we give for an exam and we get far less marks than what we thought we deserve. We work in a project and we work very hard and then somebody else comes and takes the credit for the project. And it is when such things happen, it can feel very infuriating. Why is this happening? See, it's that there is life. There is inequality. There is inequality in life. They are unequal. Some people have more wealth than others. Some people have better looks than others. That things being unequal, in one sense, that upsets us. But what upsets us more is that things are unfair. Now we can say unequal itself is unfair. But beyond that, okay, there will be some inequality, but why is it that I put in so much effort and I get so little? So this is what often leads people to start questioning the world and questioning God ultimately. One of the biggest questions in theology, the study of God is, why do bad things happen to good people? And it is a question which does not have any easy answers. Sometimes we might just use karma as a magic wand, but it's not that simple. And I'll explain how it explains and to what extent we also have to have some humility about understanding how things happen. But broadly, what happens for us many times is that if we consider that if I put in work worth 100 and I get result worth 10, then it feels very unfair. There are some people for whom we do 100 things and they barely notice all the things that we are doing for them, and for one small thing they will give a little grudging appreciation. So I feel, why is this person like this? Why am I doing it? Why am I even here? Why is this person being so unfair? Now, it is true that such things do happen. At the same time, if we are honest with ourselves, we'll find that there are also times when we put in effort worth 10 and we get a result worth 100. Isn't it? Say we may find that we study a little bit for an exam and what we study comes in the exam and we get great marks. Or sometimes it happens that we join a particular team for a project and we join the team and the project is nearly the completion and the project does very well and we get the credit for it. Isn't it? Now, India won the cricket 50 overs World Cup in 2011. So now in that World Cup winning team, there's one player who did play a single match and yet he was there in the World Cup winning team. So, if we look at our lives, yes, there are times when we get less than what we deserve. But there are also times when we get more than what we deserve. Now, there are times we may find somebody might just be very kind to us. Maybe in school, we might remember a teacher who was very harsh and demanding. But maybe some teacher was kind to us. He or she went out of their way to help us. We all can think of such people like this. So, we can say, even if life seems to be unfair, in the long run, it is fairly unfair. Fairly unfair means that in the long run, things even out. Now, this is not to say that terrible things don't happen and for some people there are more terrible things than others. That is true. But overall, things do even out. Now, most of you probably know I need crutches for walking. I've got polio. I got polio when I was 1. My mother took me to a clinic for getting a polio vaccine, and somehow it was in a small town in Maharashtra, and there the fridge in which they had kept the polio vaccine, the power supply had gone off for that night, and because of that the vaccine, the polio multiplied over there. Not the vaccine, the germs multiplied over there, and the vaccine ended up giving me polio. So I was just walking along one day and I just fell down and I couldn't walk anymore normally after that. Now I don't remember any of this, but my first memory is probably I was 2.5 or 3 or something, and some distant relative had come to our home and she was consoling my mother, saying, "It's so sad, your son got polio." And I remember my mother speaking a very calm, very clear, confident voice. Whatever he lacks physically, God will provide him intellectually. Now, I had no idea why my mother said that, and my mother passed away soon after, so I didn't get to ask her. But somehow that stayed with me. And then as I started going to school, I started studying. I couldn't play outdoor games like most kids, but I could notice that when I started studying, I could understand things very quickly. I could remember them much more than others. I could articulate things much better. So somehow it settled in the back of my mind that, that I can say I didn't deserve anything to have polio in one leg. But I didn't deserve anything to have an IQ better than others. So it is... it is not that I knew any philosophy of karma at that time, but the point is that life, when we look at the way things work, there will be times when we get less than what we deserve, but there will also be times when we get more than what we deserve. So if we look at the bigger picture, say normally, if I am polite to you, I'll expect that you should be polite to me. But if I am polite to you and you are rude to me, now I have two options. Either I think you are a crazy person, or I think maybe I have been rude to you in the past and I have forgotten, but you have not forgotten. Maybe there is something more going on over here. Maybe it might not be I might have been rude. Maybe I belong to a particular community and somebody from my community hurt you in the past. And that resentment, that anger, that now you are taking it out on me. So basically, when things don't make sense, at that time, either we can come to the conclusion that things don't make any sense at all, or we can come to the conclusion there must be something bigger going on over here. There must be something going on that I am not aware of, because of which this is happening. So essentially, what happens is, when we are getting, say this particular thing is happening for us, we could say that at this particular time, there is something coming to us from behind. So there is some negative karma coming from the past. And because of that negative karma, our present positive karma is getting minimized. That's why I put in the effort of 100, but we get a result only of 10. On the other hand, here what is happening is, here some positive karma from the past is coming in. And that's why we put a little effort and we get a lot of results. So many times the philosophy of karma, so it is, the emphasis is given on judgment. Whatever you do, you will be held accountable for that. Whatever you are suffering, it's your own karma. Now that is one aspect undoubtedly, but that is not the emphasis of karma. See, Krishna, when Arjuna has to fight against Bhishma and Drona, although Krishna is God, Krishna doesn't go into any esoteric previous life story telling Arjuna, you were so and so in this life, and Bhishma was so and so, and Bhishma did that in that life, and you did that in that life, and because of that you have to fight with each other. Krishna doesn't go into any special revelations like that. If we focus on karma primarily as a system of justice, then it raises many questions. That if I am punished for something, then at least I should be told what was the wrong that I did. But we don't know that. So thinking of karma as a focus on judgment, that is true, but that is not the primary focus of karma. While this may be there, the essential focus of karma is encouragement. How encouragement? What the karma philosophy assures us is, our actions matter, even when they don't seem to. That I am treating this person well right now, but I am being kind and polite with this person, but still this person is being rude to me. So I can come to the conclusion, what is the use of being kind and polite? But no, my kindness and politeness, it matters. So sometimes we may do a karma and we may not get the phala. But that doesn't mean doing the good karma is useless. It just means that something from the past is affecting us right now, because of which we are not getting the results. But the past negative phase of karma will not last forever. It will end in time. So, now basically, when we see that if I do good and I get bad, so there is good action and there is a bad result. Now basically, there are broadly two options for me. We can go to two extremes of a pendulum. One extreme is to say that there is no cause effect at all in the world. That life is all chaotic and disorderly and there is no meaning. So sometimes if an atheist asks, one of the strongest questions by atheists is, why do bad things happen to good people? So mostly religious people try to defend and explain that. But sometimes offense is the best defense. You can say, why should bad things not happen to good people? I mean, what do you mean? Bad things should happen to, good things should happen to good people, bad things to bad people. He said, who said that? If there is no God, if there is no organizing principle, which is the foundation of atheism, then on what basis can you say that good things should happen to good people? Isn't it? Life will have no ordering principle at all. So we can conclude that there is no cause effect at all. And this is not the way anyone functions. Even atheists, this is not a criticism of atheists, there are many reasons why people become atheists. And more often than not, atheism is not philosophical as it is psychological. People have had bad experiences with religion or with religious people primarily, and then they turn towards atheism. I was in Texas and I was going for a program. Texas is known for being very aggressively, not Texas in general, but in general, the southern belt of America is quite evangelical Christian. So they push people a lot to take Bibles and to believe in Jesus. So I saw a quote on a bumper, car bumper. It said, "Oh God, please save me from your preachers." So now the idea normally is that God saves us through his preachers. But here, "Oh God, please save me from your preachers." I don't want anything to do with that, with these people. So the point is, here this is not a condemnation of atheists per se, but it is pointing out the illogicality of atheism. So nobody lives with the idea there is no cause of connection at all. Because even atheists are not going to tell their children, even if you study, don't study, the world is a rotten place. It doesn't going to make any difference. No, you study. And sometimes life just doesn't make sense. So atheism does not remove the problems of life. The problems are there for everyone. Bad things happen to everyone in life. Atheism only removes the hope that atheism, what it does is removes life's problems. Does it do that? Now, no philosophy is going to remove life's problems. Life's problems are going to be there for atheists, whatever we have. What it does is, it cannot remove. What it does it removes the hope that life's problems have some purpose. They have some meaning. That, okay, why is this happening to me? There is some sense, there is some plan. So all that atheism does is just removes that hope for us. So basically, when we face life's unfairness, one extreme is to say there is no cause effect at all. The other is to say that the universe, or whatever you want to say, or God is against me. And then going back to our acronym, this is neutral. It's just all chaotic. It just things happen randomly, or is against me. So now this is where the whole universe is meaningless, or the universe is against me. I am being singled out for suffering. Now when the first is bad, the second is worse. To think that somebody out there is out to get me, and whatever I do, somebody is out there to thwart it, to destroy it. It's a very dark way to live. Now, in between, what we understand is something bigger is going on. It is not that there is no cause and effect, but there is something bigger going on. That right now, maybe I am going through a negative phase. Maybe I am going through a negative phase right now, which will end with time. The thing in this world lasts forever. Sometimes we may have a negative karma phase, and at that time we just have to live with it. But no negative karma phase lasts forever. So I was going to talk about the acronym APT. So A was appreciate the gifts that are there, and P is persist. Persist when we are going through a negative phase of karma. Sometimes it may appear as if I am doing good and nothing good is happening in my life. But that doesn't mean I should stop doing good. It means that God is in charge, and there is a plan for life. But now this persist, how can we do this? Now I said for each session I'll have one diagram. So this is the diagram for today. And it's like in our situation, say there is our present karma, that means what we are doing right now, and there is the past karma, what we have done in the past. Now our present karma can be positive, our past karma can be positive. Our present karma can be negative, our past karma can be negative. So now this is the best situation to be in. If our present karma is positive and our past karma is positive. That means what? I am doing good things right now, and from the past, good things are coming to me. Then what will happen is, we will be happy and we'll be able to do good things also in our life. This is the best situation to be in. Now, let's look at these various situations. Now, if our past karma is negative, or let's try to understand this dynamic before with an example. Say, suppose there's a city in which in a bank a lot of cash is brought. Maybe $10 million are brought into cash, in cash in the bank. And then 10 thieves come to know, oh, there is this cash over here. And they come to know they all plan to rob. Now, all 10 of them plan to rob the bank, but various things go wrong and 9 of them fail. And 1 of them succeeds. Now, why did this one person succeed and everyone else fail? It was because this one person had some good karma in the past. It requires good karma to do bad karma. But to do bad karma means to be successful in what we do. See, in general, if we are honest in our lives, we understand that success requires factors beyond our control to fall in place. Like if you consider cricket or any sports, the players have to perform well, but so many other things have to fall in place for victory to come about. So, our present karma, it has to be important, but then the past karma has to fall in place. So the thieves, now the thief who succeeds in robbing the bank. Now, if that thief had instead developed the skills and developed the aptitude to do some project, to do some work, by the past karma, that thief would have been successful in that also. So basically, because of past karma, success was going to come. But by the present karma, the person decided what I am going to do, is it going to be good or bad. So basically, the results that we get in our life, so in general, I give the example of 100 plus 5. But most often for what happens for us is that whenever we get any phala, that phala, so there is present karma and there is past karma. And both combine together to give the result. Now sometimes it can range from the past karma may be 100 and the present may be 0 practically. Like say, somebody is not only born in a wealthy family, but somebody is born in a healthy family with great looks and with a great IQ. It's almost like they just get propelled towards success. It's never 100 to 0. You could say it's 99 to 1. They have to put in, they have to do some good work. Now the other extreme could be that the past is only 1 and this life is 99. That means that somebody is born in a very bad neighborhood, maybe they became orphan in their childhood and they suffered various kinds of abuse, and still they worked hard, they got some scholarship, they did a job while studying, and then they rose to become successful. So this combination of how much past karma and how much present karma, we don't know how it is going to work out. And this can also change during different phases of our life. Sometimes it may be that a lot of things fall in place for us, and sometimes, so that means present we have to do very little and things work out, and sometimes a lot of things fall out of place. So we do a lot and still we get little result. But basically, life, the results that we get are a combination of present and past karma. So when results don't seem to be coming, it is not that God is unfair or God is non-existent. It is that something bigger is going on. Something from the past is affecting the results that are coming for us. So now, if we go back to this, with this understanding, let's go back to this quadrant. So, if the person has negative past karma and negative present karma. So negative past karma means that person will be relatively powerless. The person, because of positive negative present karma, that person will be bad. They will want to do bad things, but because the past karma is not there, so the person will be bad but will be very powerless. Like somebody decides, I'll become a criminal, and they join the underworld and think I'm going to become the next underworld don. And the first robbery that they make, they are arrested, and for the rest of the life they go to jail. So that person may want to do bad, but if the past karma is not good, they can't do much bad also, isn't it? Now, so now if you see, if the past karma is positive and the present karma is negative, this is actually the most dangerous situation. A person is bad and the person is powerful. So this is the most dangerous. This is where many tyrants, many dictators, many terrorists, so they have some past good karma, because of which what they do will be successful. But right now they are doing some bad things. So now basically for us, if we understand that God is in control and there is a action result correlation, then basically we rule out this whole quadrant. I am not going to do any negative karma in the present now. So here, see, if we are in the, so if we call it 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3 is the worst, 4th is the best. But if, okay, nothing has come. Okay, it's gone down, right? Okay, it's interesting that screen is smaller than the screen. Okay, no problem. So if we are in this quadrant, when we are doing some good things but we are not getting good results, so this is where we need persistence. Persist. That because of some negative karma from the past, I am doing some good but I am not getting the results. It's like a child may be behaving very nicely, but the parents withhold some privileges from the child. They say, no, I did my homework, I did this, I did this. But the parents may say, you were naughty in the past. I did one big naughtiness, that's why you're not getting these privileges. The child may think, oh, I did this, you should give me this now. No, but there's something from the past coming up. So, this is where persistence is required. Krishna says, Karmanne vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. But because our phala doesn't come only from our present actions. It comes from present plus past actions. So, when we are going through this world, so the topic I was discussing today was about connecting with the Lord. Connecting with the Lord, I am not talking about bhakti right now. I'll be talking bhakti more tomorrow. See, for most people, I said that like a child doesn't really understand the fundamental needs. The child looks at the desires. Am I getting them or not? Like that, for most of us in this world, the material things that are happening in our life, they at a functional level matter much more. And if things are going wrong in that in their area, it's very difficult to keep our faith steady. So we need to be able to make sense of this. Now the last part in the acronym, I'm not going to elaborate on this. I was talking about APT. So T is transcend. Now transcend means what? We start valuing the spiritual more than the material. That just like a child starts understanding that the toys are not that important. That material things and the ups and downs that happen with it, they are, from the spiritual perspective, ultimately, they are temporary. But we cannot come to this level immediately. It takes time to come to this level. So, and Krishna also doesn't expect us to come to this level. So with the karma philosophy, we understand if things are not working, that doesn't mean that God is against me. It just means I'm going through some negative phase right now. So one way to persist is by just pushing on. But another way is, okay, all this is not that important. It's like one essential meaning of transcending. What does it mean? We start understanding that the thoughts inside are more important than the things outside. That the things outside are important. I want health, I want wealth, I want social respect and all these things. I want a good house, I want these things. But the thoughts inside are more important. So by the practice of bhakti, bhakti, what it will do is, it will improve the quality of our thoughts. Now, will the quality of our things improve? That depends. Now, karma and bhakti can overlap in quite puzzling ways. When we start practicing bhakti, we start chanting Hare Krishna, we start remembering Krishna, then that remembrance starts elevating the level of our thoughts. And that elevation of the level of thoughts starts giving us satisfaction internally. So the material things start mattering less for us. That's how, whether we are going through good karma phase or bad karma phase, our connection with Krishna keeps us satisfied. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in so many songs, Sukhe dako, dukhe dako, Sukhe dukhe, or Grihe thako, vane thako, Sampatti vipatti. These dualities, a devotee becomes steady in them because the connection with Krishna helps us realize the state of things in the outer world matters, but the state of thoughts in my inner world matters even more. And Krishna is always there for us to remember. And if we remember Him, He enriches our thoughts. And by that enrichment of our thoughts, the external, whether there is enrichment or lack of enrichment, that doesn't matter so much. So Krishna is there within our hearts, calling us. He wants to give us the higher vision, by which when things are going wrong, it is not that Krishna has abandoned us. It is that Krishna is with us, but it is He wants us to abandon the illusions that make us think that He has abandoned us, that it is we who have gone away from Him. So this transcending, how we can do that, that is, we target Krishna as the Lord of our life. That we'll be discussing in our last session tomorrow. I'll summarize what we discussed today. We discussed broadly the pastime. We read through various sections and how the Avijñāt Sakha is guiding with saying that we have been together for a long time. Now we are caught in this body and the illusion, but you are still far away from home. Just turn towards me now. So how do we turn? Today our focus was on how to connect with the Lord. We were discussing the acronym ACT. So now yesterday in my session I talked about appreciating the role of the Lord in terms of the gift of life. But today I talked about it was APT. T I didn't focus on. A was what I focused on. A was what here? Appreciate in terms of the gifts in life. Gifts in life is that for all of us, there will always be things we have and things we don't have. What we have and what we don't have. So appreciate means that if our vision is locked onto what we don't have, we can never be happy. So what we want to do is turn our vision over here. That is what will help us to be happy. So appreciate what we have, cultivate gratitude. But still it may feel that life is unfair, and that's where the major part of the session was on persist. So why do we need to persist? Because normally we may say karma means I do action and I get a result. And it is true at a certain level that if I eat cold food, I may get a cold. So action result correlation is there. But when it doesn't seem to be there, then at that time, if I'm doing a large action and I'm getting a tiny result, then what does it mean is that there is something negative coming from the past. So 110, so minus 10. So the point of karma is not so much judgment. You did wrong and you will be punished for that. It's more of encouragement. That what you are doing, even if the results are not coming, that doesn't mean that life is pointless. It just means that we are going through a negative phase right now. So in this connection we discussed the diagram over here, two diagrams. One was the pendulum. When we do good and we get bad, either we can say that all life is meaningless, or the life is against me. Now both of these are really not hope-giving doctrines. So instead what we see, there is a bigger picture. Bigger picture means there is something from the past coming in. So if our present karma and the past karma that we are doing, so we would like to avoid the whole case where the present karma is negative. So this is, if both of them are negative, then what happens? The person is bad, but the person is relatively powerless. They can't cause much harm. The past karma is good and the present karma is God, they are bad and powerful. This is a deadly situation to be in. Now, if this is the best, our present karma is good, past karma is good, then this is the best. But if this is not the case, then there you need to be persistent. That this dark phase will end. And then finally we talked about transcend. I mentioned this briefly. Transcend means what happens is, we start seeing that material things, they are not that important. They will come and they will go. This is not that important means, we discussed the idea of growth. For a child growth, what happens is initially, the child considers desires to be more important than needs. When the child grows, child starts to understand that needs are more important than desires. So like that, initially we think material things to be very important. But as we start transcending, material things are not that important. We start understanding what is more important is the thoughts inside us. And bhakti, practice, connection with Krishna can elevate our thoughts. It can enrich our thoughts. And thus we can be satisfied that Krishna is with me and I want to be with Krishna. So in this connecting, I talked about faith and surrender. Faith is Krishna is on my side. And surrender means I will be on Krishna's side. So for us, we cannot really chant and practice, do sadhana very consistently if at the background we are feeling that God is against me or God doesn't care for me. So we need some amount of Shastra Chakshu. Some people may say, some people just have innocent devotion. They don't need philosophy. Yes, then some people can have that innocent natural devotion. But even for such people, when bad things happen, if some philosophical perspective can help them to make sense of what is happening, then they can fix their mind on Krishna more easily. So that faith, here what we're talking about is the faith that comes from the philosophical perspective. That okay, Krishna is on my side, let me be on Krishna's side. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes, bro. Okay, with mic behind.
Thank you very much for the class. So, Prabhuji, you mentioned during the class that when we try to connect Krishna, Krishna is guiding us. So, is it true? Is it like Krishna is guiding us internally, or is it just our mind, which is sometimes there are thoughts in the mind which, okay, if it's a negative thought, we identify it. But if it's a positive thought, we may say, okay, it's coming from Krishna. But is it really coming from Krishna, or is it a mind?
Okay, good question. See, it's very difficult to know that. The first is the principle that Krishna is for us, Krishna wants to help us. Then there is the practice. So in terms of practice, there is a certain level of purification required for us to actually be able to discern God's voice within us. So generally, rather than worrying so much about the source, we can focus on the effect. Don't worry so much about where this thought is coming from. Is it coming from mind? Is it coming from my intelligence? Is it coming from Krishna? Just focus on using our whatever experience, whatever intelligence we have. Is this going to take me towards a good direction or a bad direction? It's going to take me towards a good direction, then let me move ahead. And then accept that this is by Krishna's arrangement. See, even if it has come from our mind, our mind is also ultimately controlled by Krishna. And it's not that everything that the mind says is bad. The mind can be our enemy, but the mind can also be our friend. So the point is that when something beneficial comes up from within us, we act on it. And then of course, there are broad patterns. See, when we look at guidance from Krishna, broadly speaking, we can say that there is a whole spectrum of actions. So there is a pendulum, there is an extreme which is positive, and there is some which is negative. We know this is good and this is bad. And in between, what they say is the muddle in the middle. So, is this good, is this bad? I don't know. So, if we start by doing what we know is good and avoiding what is bad, by that we are showing Krishna that we want to do the right thing. And if we just persist in this way, eventually what will happen is the good will become broader and clearer. The bad will also become broader and clearer. Now, there will always, just being human means, there will be a domain of uncertainty. Nobody becomes omniscient. Even when Srila Prabhupada went to America, he says in his Markine Bhagavad Dharma that Ache kichu karja tabe ei anumane nahe keno ani bena ei ugrasthane. I guess you must have some purpose for me. Anumane. So it is not that Prabhupada had a hotline to Krishna and Krishna was always telling, no, this person is not going to become a devotee. Don't waste time on this person. This person is going to become a devotee. Spend time with this person. No, Prabhupada was using his intelligence, making observations and reciprocating with people. Now, some people took up, some people didn't take up. So being human means there will always be some domain of uncertainty. But when we keep making right choices, that domain of uncertainty will decrease. And what is beneficial and what is unbeneficial or counterproductive, that will become also more and more clear. Okay. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thanks for a very thought-provoking class. Prabhu, on the concept of persist, Prabhu, material experiences can sometimes also shake your faith. So when you are saying persist is sometimes, Prabhu, we are also going to be persisting to advance on the material side. Like for example, we are working and we go back and we face a bad experience, immediately we can also question, why is it happening to me? And at persistence, when you are saying to focus more on the right thing, is that covering also the material aspect or is it only just focusing on?
No, I didn't talk anything. See, in fact, I did not talk anything about the spiritual right now. We're simply talking about karma right now. So, transcend is where we'll start talking about the spiritual. And tomorrow I'll also talk about why this radical differentiation between the material and spiritual is sometimes not very helpful. We differentiate, there's some value in the differentiation. I am simply talking about material and spiritual here in terms of, positive and negative karma, in terms of, the action that will lead to some good and action that will lead to some bad. So when I am talking about positive karma also, now positive karma can be in an ethical sense. That we understand that, say, eating meat or killing animals, that's bad. But when I am talking about positive karma, I am also talking about it in a functional sense. Functional sense means what? Say if somebody is rude to me and I choose to be rude to them, it's unlikely that that's going to make things better. Functional sense, I am polite. Now, is that all that is required? Sometimes we have to stand up for ourselves. Sometimes, we can't, just being polite may not be enough, we have to be firm also. So positive karma means what will make things better. That with our present understanding of things, we have to evaluate what will make things better, and we do that. Now, do we always know what will make things better? Certainly not. But is it that we never know what will make things better? No, that's also not true. There are always some small steps we can take. So in that sense, persistence is that broadly, again going back to this diagram, in broad patterns we know what is going to make things worse and what is going to make things better. So we try to keep doing the things that will make things better. When Abhimanyu is killed, at that time Arjuna is shattered, and Arjuna is lashing out at Yudhishthira and Bhima especially, saying, now are all your weapons just ornaments? Could not one of you protect my son? They are already feeling terrible, and Arjuna's words are like whiplashes on their face. At that time Krishna pulls Arjuna into a side hug. Krishna says, "O Partha, in this world bad things happen to everyone, the wise and the unwise. The difference between the two is that when bad things happen, the wise act in ways that make things better, whereas the unwise act in ways that make things worse." He said, "O Partha, your brothers are in pain at the death of Abhimanyu, just as you are. Please don't speak words that will increase their pain. Please don't speak words that will increase their pain." So Krishna doesn't go into an elaborate philosophy about, or some, again, past life karma, who was Abhimanyu and why did this happen to him. What Krishna focuses on is, this situation has come now. Now, infighting among the Pandavas, blaming each other, it's only going to make things worse. So now what can we do? We have a war to fight. Let's fight it with more vigor. So in that sense, I'm talking, Krishna also talks in a functional sense over here. Now karma does definitely have an ethical dimension, but karma also has a practical, functional dimension. So in our situation, what can I do to make things better? So ultimately, when we talk about service attitude, seva bhav, now service attitude can be at one level, serve Krishna, we can say. That is true, but what does serve Krishna mean? See, if Krishna is Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam, Krishna is the well-wisher of everyone. That means Krishna wants things to be better. Krishna wants us to be better. Krishna wants things to be better. So when you say service attitude, in one sense you can call it this. Service attitude can also mean, what can I do to make things better? So how can I serve Krishna? That is one meaning of service attitude. How can I serve Krishna? But what can I do to make things better? That is the same principle of service attitude applied in a broader way, in a more relevant or practical way for us. That same concept, if you consider a pendulum, not a pendulum, like a funnel, you broaden it. At one level it means, how can I serve Krishna? But Krishna is not just in the temple, not in the altar. Krishna is in the world. Krishna wants, like Krishna tells Arjuna, you become an instrument for me in the fight. So Krishna wants to fix things in the world. Now, there were the big Dharma Yuddha and Krishna himself had come. So we may say, I'm not fighting any Dharma Yuddha. But whatever it is, we can make the situation of our life more orderly or more disorderly. So we take Dharma in the broad sense of order. Then serving Krishna means, how can I act to make things better in this situation? Okay, thank you. Okay, any of the Matajis have any questions? Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the effort for your time. My question is a little bit around the philosophy, because yesterday also you mentioned a lot about philosophy, and today also a little bit we talk about it. But sometimes what happens when you read a lot, like in this, like I read a lot about philosophy, Western philosophy, different philosophies, but then what happens, there are so many questions that actually comes in your mind. And sometimes you get the answer, sometimes you don't get it. In that scenario, like how to handle this situation practically?
Yeah, that's a good point. See, when we study philosophy, there can be two purposes broadly for studying philosophy. One is we want certainty. That this is like this is like this is like this. But the search for the study of philosophy can also be due to curiosity. See, in our tradition, athato brahma jigyasa is important. So we as human beings will never have certainty. There is a lot that we will not know. Krishna himself says gahana karmano gati, that when someone is suffering, what exactly is the cause of the suffering? When Arjuna has to fight against Drona and Bhishma, what is the cause of that? Krishna says gahana karmano gati. There are no pat answers to the sufferings in this world. So if you want certainty, no philosophy is going to give us certainty. That's not a problem of the philosophy, it's a problem of the human condition. We are finite beings and we live in a very vast world. So if we have curiosity, then through curiosity what we can get is clarity. And the clarity can keep increasing. But the clarity will never lead to certainty. So just because we don't get answers to all questions does not mean that we shouldn't study philosophy. We seek answers as much as we can. In the 10.9 in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, even the enlightened keep enlightening each other. Aham sarvasya prabhu mattah sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante ma buddha bhava samanvita. Krishna says these are enlightened, they are devoted to me. So the Buddha is enlightened. But the next verse says, the enlightened people, what do? Bodhayantaha parasparam. They keep enlightening each other. Because reality is endlessly complex. And we keep learning. So, if we have a philosophical inclination, then we should try to associate with like-minded devotees who also have philosophical inclination. And they will appreciate our questions. They will give us some insights. If we are philosophical and the people around us are not very philosophical, then they will not appreciate our questions very much. They'll just find it intellectually irritating or whatever. So we need like-minded association. But yes, we should. Just because philosophy can't answer everything doesn't mean that philosophy should not be studied. It just means that there is a human search for understanding that is ongoing, and we can keep learning more and more. Okay? Thank you. Yes, bro. We'll take two questions. You had a question? Yeah.
Yes, one question. We discussed about the persistence and transcendence. So, like certain times when the times are very trying, persistence takes a beating, and
takes a
beating in the sense that it becomes shaky, the persistence, and we also discuss about transcending. So sometimes we may make this as an excuse, oh, this is not for me, better to transcend. So is it a trap that keeps us away from our persistence?
I think I'll have to discuss this more elaborately tomorrow. But persisting does not necessarily mean doing the same thing again and again. Persisting means we try to do the right thing. But what is the right thing can vary from from time, place, circumstance. That if we consider the Pandavas always tried to follow Dharma. But in general, when we are having difficulties, broadly there are three options for us. There is, we can mitigate the difficulty. I use the acronym MET for this. When we have met a wise person, we have met wisdom, either we mitigate the problem, we emigrate from the problem, or we tolerate the problem. Now these three broad options are there. And say, we look at the Pandavas, when Bhima was poisoned, they tolerated it. Isn't it? Yudhishthira said, don't make it a big issue. Maybe Bhima is just a bit insecure. That's why I did something like this. Now, when there was the fire in the house of Lac, in the palace of Lac, what did they do? They didn't go back to confront the Kauravas. They emigrated. But eventually, when both first Draupadi was dishonored, and then Krishna was dishonored, they attempted to arrest Krishna. Then they decided we have to fight a war now. So the right thing is not necessarily the same thing. So when we say persist in doing the right thing doesn't mean the same thing. In different situations, different things may be the right thing. So we always persist. We have to use our buddhi to determine how to persist. So when I'm talking about persistence, it's more, persist is more in the principle that I will do the right thing. But in terms of practice, what is the right thing? That we may have to decide. That is not the same thing all the time. If you are working in a job and say repeatedly we are doing the job and we are not getting credit for what we are doing, somebody else is stealing the credit, then you may decide, okay, I don't, right now it's a new job, I have to at least get some experience, I may tolerate it at that. But if it's happening again and again, we have some experience, we have some credibility, then we may try to raise the issue, escalate it, complain about it, or try to mitigate the issue. Then if the mitigate doesn't work, then we decide, I don't want to be in this job, I'll get a better job and I'll be recognized for what I'm doing. So emigrate. So all three options are there. So now all these three, see, I'm talking about all these three as all these three could be done in a service attitude. But all these three could be done in a negative attitude also. The opposite of this could be retaliate. The Pandavas did not fight the Kurukshetra war to just take revenge against the Kauravas. Krishna said, fight without any animosity toward them. Nirvairaha sarvabhuteshu. Emigrate could be running away. You just face any problem, you run away from that place. That's not good. Now the opposite of tolerate is to suffocate. In the name of tolerating, we are not able to do anything at all, and there's so much resentment inside us. We are just completely frustrated inside. So in modern psychological terms, you call it as fight, flight, freeze. So determining the right thing is not very easy. But now, can transcending be an excuse? Well, it's possible, but ideally what we should do is, we transcend in the sense of we turn towards Krishna, we pray to Krishna, we immerse ourselves in Krishna, and then we revisit the situation with that higher connection. Then, Krishna, what is the best thing for me to do? How can I act in this situation that will be constructive? We pray to Krishna. So tomorrow I'll talk about devotion. Has these two aspects. It's world transcending, but it is also world transforming. So Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha. We remember Krishna, that means we understand what is happening in my life. It's not only because this person is a terrible person, or this company is terrible, this country is terrible, or I am terrible. That is just the material vision. And there is some truth to that, but that is not the complete reality. So we want to transcend to get the bigger picture, connect with Krishna. That Krishna is in charge even in this situation. Krishna has a plan going on, and Krishna has a part for me in this plan. So that conviction we get by transcending. And then we see how I can go about transforming the situation. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Madhi, last question. Please stop.
Eventually, we were talking about the past karma and present karma, the results, like if negative past karma are there, how much we do, the result might be the small. But in this case, the faith can be shaken right through. So, like whatever good we are doing, the results are not coming. And some people may give up on doing the good things. So how to convince such things to the people who really don't understand this concept?
It's difficult, it's not easy. The first thing is that, our attitude should not be trying to convince them that God is right and don't blame God. Our attitude should be, we want to help them. As a attitude or as a part of helping them, we are offering this philosophical perspective. If people see that we are using their suffering as a means to thrust our philosophy down their throat, then they will not accept it. So our goal should be is that yes, life is complicated and sometimes we just go through difficult phases. Now ultimately we have to make one choice, that is life meaningful or is life meaningless? Is there some order in life or is life completely disorderly and chaotic? So if we accept it as disorderly and chaotic, then that has certain consequences, and that is psychologically quite damaging to live like that. So we all have some understanding that there is some order over there. So we offer that this is a resource by which you can make sense. You can try to make sense when things are not making sense. So then, we can try to help them look back at their own life when they went through a good phase. If we are alive, that itself means that there are more things right with us than wrong with us. If there are more things wrong, we could just fall dead in one moment. So yes, we might be going through a bad phase right now, but if we look at our life, surely every one of us can think of some phase in our life when we did get more than what we deserved. That means say we got some lucky break. Like somebody may say, I worked very hard and that's why I got all this. That may be true. But say some student worked very hard and they got some scholarship. Now we may say, I worked hard, that's why I got the scholarship. But no, there was somebody who set up the scholarship, isn't it? That was an act of kindness from that person. Now we may have studied by which you got qualification for the scholarship, but qualification is not earning, isn't it? Its scholarship is not a salary. So that was a lucky break for us. So we need to guide them to see that yes, life is bad, but has life always been bad? And then some amount of perspective comes. It's not easy, especially when you're going through bad phase at that particular time. But if we can help them to see that basically amid difficulties, we can either catastrophize. Catastrophe means that, this is a natural earthquake, this is a tsunami, it's catastrophize. We can either catastrophize, everything is terrible, or we can contextualize. So catastrophizing leads to problems. Our mind worsens the problem. Contextualize means, yes, in this phase, in this context you see, this is terrible. It does seem unfair. But then look at some other context in your life. Were things not better? Did we not get things more than what we deserved? So if you can help them contextualize, then it is relatively easier for them to also see, to not lose hope at that particular time. Okay. So thank you very much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande Jai.
Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful class. I think the amount of concepts and the philosophical angles, practical angles, the knowledge is now.